Guys, welcome back to another SP Vids video. In this video I'm going to answer a question that I've been getting a lot recently, and it's to do with which SP to buy as your first SP. Now there's a lot of different aspects to each one, which I'm going to try and summarize as quickly as I can and get this question answered as directly as possible, but I do have to go into a few sort of nuances and specific details about each one for you to fully understand why I recommend the one that I do by the end of the video. So what I'm going to do, obviously I haven't got every single SP, I've got a lot of them. Obviously I've got the 202, the 303, the 404SX, which is basically the same as the A, and then I've got the 555 as well. Not going to include the 555 in this one as they're really rare to get. If you can get hold of them, they are great samplers, but just because they're quite rare to get hold of, that's why I'm not going to include that in this list, so I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to start off with the 202, and let me just get this into the center of the frame so you can have a proper look at it. So the 202 is a really fun little sampler, but I would definitely not recommend this as your first SP device, and the reasons are pretty straightforward with this one. The sampling time is very, very poor compared to modern standards. At the time it probably was good. I think you get about 15 seconds on standard. Hi-Fi and standard around about 15 seconds sample time, and then Lo-Fi 1, Lo-Fi 2, I think that can extend to about 30 seconds sample time, but those qualities are not really usable for certain things, so you're not going to be wanting to use Lo-Fi 1 and 2 consistently. So basically that's the main reason why I would just say this isn't really a good one for starting off with. The other issue with this is the memory card. The slot's down here, and as you can see it's by no means a standard format that we're familiar to now. They actually use the same as the 303, which is these smart media cards, but they use a certain voltage, and this one, for example, which I've just taken out my 303, will not work with the 202 just because they require a different voltage. And the voltage for these is, I think it's something like 1.5 volts, but they're extremely rare to get hold of, and you're looking at paying around about $100 or about 80 quid to get a memory card that works with your 202. So that's another issue with it. And then you've got the fact that even if you do have a memory card and you can store more sample time, certain effects don't work when you're saving to the memory card either. They only work on the internal memory. So all in all, this is not a good beginner SP, and also I really don't recommend this as a standalone device either. It needs to be used in comparison with something else. And there's a really great comment on my Instagram account the other day which basically said you can't have an effects pedal without having a guitar, and I think that's a really good way of summing up the 202. It's really good for the effects that it's got built in, but you need something else in order to use this properly, i.e. the 404SX or a computer or something along those lines. So maybe if you've got a laptop, I guess you could probably struggle along with this a little bit and get it to work in your workflow. Maybe use it as an external effects unit. But again, that's another issue I've just realised with this one actually. I'm not selling the 202 very well at all, but you have to save samples into the SP before you can apply effects to them. You can't apply effects to the signal coming in. So it's a very basic machine, this one. I personally love it. I mean, the effects in it are absolutely incredible, but it's not a good box for beginners, basically, for those reasons which I've just listed. So I know a lot of people sort of jump on the 202 because it's quite cheap, and you can still seem to kind of get hold of them, but don't let the price fool you with these. It is because it is a very, very basic box, and hopefully all those reasons which you just explained there make you understand why they're relatively cheap compared to others. So that's the 202, a great device, but not one for you beginners out there. So let's move on to the next one, which I've got here, which is the 303. Now this is a big step up from the 202, a lot more sample time. Again, it uses the smart media card, which I just showed you before, but because of the voltage of these, I think these are a little bit easier to get hold of. I'm not sure on the exact voltage for the 303. If someone does know, please leave a comment below. That'd be really useful for the rest of the community. So this is a massive step up from the 202 because you've got a way more effects. You've got more parameters that you can mess around with. You can change start and end points as well with the dials, which I don't believe you can do with the 202. So that's another bugbear that I have with the 202. So yeah, this is a big step up, but some of the things you're going to struggle with on the 303 is sample time. Again, is reasonably limited. I don't know the exact figures for this one, so that's a concern. And also, the workflow on the 303 is actually pretty slow as well. There's a lot of deleting when you're sampling and creating beats, and I think this can get a little bit frustrating when you're waiting for samples to delete. So obviously, this is a decent box. You could potentially get away with this one as your first SP, but another thing I'd probably point out is the fact that you only get 8 pads per bank as well. I think having that extra row of pads, which I'll explain when I get to the SX, is a big bonus. So you'll find yourself quickly running out of pads on this device if you work like I do, sort of in a bank per track basis. But yes, the effects in here are really nice. There's not much difference between this and the SX. The only one thing I'd probably say about this one is the vinyl compression. If you're using compression on this number 12, you get a vinyl compressor on the first dial, and it can really fatten up your beats. So that, to me, that's seen as a reason why a lot of people get this sampler, just for that one effect. So yeah, to be honest, I haven't used this a great deal, so it's hard for me to say properly if this is good for beginners. But the one thing I would say about this is there must be a reason why I haven't used it that much, and I think I'll move on to that when I talk about the SX. But all in all, this is a little bit cheaper than the SX, but obviously, hopefully you can see a pattern that the prices are basically in line with the features that they have. So if you do have that little bit of extra money, you can move up and get the 303, which will probably do you right, but I'm going to move on to the SX now and talk about why I think that one's the best. So let's swap this one over for the 404SX. Now, the 404SX to me is the one for beginners. Appreciate it's a little bit more expensive, but if you're brand new to sampling, you're going to probably struggle with the 303 and the 202. So I would definitely recommend the SX or the A. So let's just get one thing on the table as well. The SX and the A are almost exactly identical in terms of the features that they have. So everything you can do on this, you can do on the A. Everything you can do on the A, you can do on this. I think the only differences that are in there is the A has some technology in there that means it can sync with other Roland products better via the MIDI. So that's pretty much the only difference that you're having with that one. So the SX, if you can get hold of it, I imagine you can probably pick it up for a little bit cheaper as well, because it's just a slightly older, it's like the older model now. So hopefully you can get hold of this one for a bit cheaper. But if you've got the money, I'd probably just say go for the A. It doesn't look quite as nice colour-wise, but you can get customizable faceplates and all that kind of stuff. You can put your own stickers on, you can change the dials, so it's not going to look bad after you've done your own little customizations to it. So the SX for me is the one, mainly because you've got the 12 pads, you've got all the effects that the 303 has, you've got effects that the 202 have got, but I've talked about in a different video, but there's reasons why you do want to get a 202 is because some of the effects in it are really good and they don't feature on the later models. But that being said, I mean, there's 24 effects built into this box. You can use effects on the signal coming in as well, which is a massive bonus. Like I said, I think I might have already just mentioned, but the 12 pads as well per bank is way better. You've got way more banks as well, and the main reason I think is just because of this. It's the SD cards. So this is a format that at this moment in time is just really compatible with a lot of things, sort of dongles for your computer. A lot of laptops will have slots for SD cards built in. So 32 gig, that's the maximum you can have, but it's just so much storage space that you're never going to run out, really. And that's the great thing about the SX, in my opinion, is just the fact that you can store so much stuff on it. But not only that, the workflow's fast as well. Like deleting samples and editing samples is really quick. So hopefully this clears up a few questions that you might have about each of the individual boxes. I know there's probably going to be a heap load of questions around these, so feel free to add them in the comments below. I'll get round to them when I can. The SX to me is the one. If you can afford it, go for this one. I don't think you'll regret it at all. And then when you get comfortable with this one, you'll see what you can do with the other ones, the 202 and the 303 as well. They're just a little fun accessories to have on the side. They're good to use in combination with each other and that kind of thing. But I think this is a sort of main hub, especially if you're thinking of doing doorless stuff. This is the one to go for. So yeah, I hope that answers the question for you guys. I know a lot of people have been asking that in the last few weeks, and I really wanted to clear that up and be able to direct them to a video, save me having to type out an answer every time. So SX is the one, 303 would be next, the 202 next as well, and should probably just mention that the 404 AG, I don't know an awful lot about that. I've never used one, I've never had one, I don't own one. I imagine it sits somewhere between the 303 and the 404 SX, so instead of limiting yourself with that, go for the SX. I appreciate that sometimes offers come up for devices though, like a friend might be selling a 303 or an OG, 404 AG, and if the deal's right for you, like, go for that, and you'll still be able to learn on it. But I just think this is definitely the best one for starting out. So thanks very much for watching, guys. If you could do a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, if you could subscribe, that would be really, really cool. I'm trying to smash my way towards 10k at the moment, so really keen to get this channel to 10k subs. If you could help out by hitting that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. You can also support the channel by heading to spvids.com and picking up the beat packs on there. There's 2 available at the moment, and there's a discounted bundle as well, so I'd really appreciate that too. Apart from that, I hope you're all doing well. If you've got any questions at all, please leave them below. Keep making beats, and I will be back very soon with more content. Peace!